Hey everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with the Moms. It's Nicole today, and today I'm going to be showing you how my family makes their butternut squash soup. It's just a recipe that my mom gave me. I'm sure it derives from some specific recipe, but there's no certain amounts you put in. It's more on taste, just so you know. So it's fairly easy to make, very simple, but so yummy and perfect for fall. I just love it so much. So let's get into it. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to grab a pot, a fairly big one, and ones that you would make like a good amount of pasta in or something like that. And you're going to want to put some olive oil in there. Please make sure you have enough olive oil because you don't want to burn. You're going to be sauteing some onions and some carrots and garlic together. And you just want to make sure that you do not burn your onions before they saute. So if you don't have enough oil, that can happen. So here I have my whole white, it's just a regular white onion. I just have it diced up as finely as I could. You could probably use a sweet onion if you want. I just opted to use a white onion because that's what I had. And for my garlic, I did end up using my zester. I just find it's a pain to chop garlic. So I used 2 fresh cloves of garlic, and I just zested them up and put them in there on top. So here I have my onions sauteing in my oil, and I just kind of mixed them up enough so that the oil is coating all of the onions, and you're going to let those sit for a little bit before you put anything in there. And so in this next clip, I have my carrots. So you can just use like a whole carrot, but I didn't buy a whole carrot, but I did have some baby carrots, so I just grabbed a handful of those and I diced them up nice and fine. Again, sometimes you just don't have everything, but if you can substitute, if it's fairly similar, that's what I do. And I find that works out just fine for me. And so here I have my diced carrots up. I did it as finely as possible just so they can cook down nice and evenly with the onions once I put them in there. But I did let the onions saute a little bit longer before I put in the garlic and my carrots. So here is my butternut squash. It was about 5 pounds, just so you know. And so the first thing I did was I cut off the top, I cut off the bottom, and then I peeled it. Now, I did peel it with just a regular peeler, like a potato peeler, and it did not get down close enough. I didn't get it down. I could have kept going with it, but my hand was hurting, so I didn't. So what I did was I ended up getting off the rest of the skin while I was while I was chopping up the rest of the butternut squash. I just kind of took off the extra because it was making it harder to cut. So here I have my chopped up butternut squash, and I did them all fairly similar size. It's when you're cooking stuff, you definitely want to try and cut things at a very similar width, just because it makes it easier to cook down evenly. No, I did not dice them up as much as like the onions and stuff, but they cook a little bit differently. So just so you know. And then what you're also going to need is you're going to need some vegetable, if I can speak, vegetable stock or vegetable broth. Whatever you prefer. I think both would work well. I have garden vegetable broth here. And how much you're going to use depends on how much butternut squash you end up having. So what I did is I have one here, and you just want to make sure you have enough to cover it all up once it's in the pot. So here I have my sauteed onions, and I'm adding in my carrots, and I had already put in the garlic with a zester. It's kind of hard to hold and film while I'm doing the zester. So just so you know that. So here it is there. It's kind of all sauteed up, and that's when I put in my butternut squash. And then after you throw in your butternut squash, you're going to want to put in your vegetable stock or broth. And that's what I'm doing here. I just put it in nice and slowly. You don't want to I only did that so it wouldn't splash everywhere because normally I make a mess all the time. So just so you know that. And this carton is, I'm pretty sure it's about 2 cups. And it covered up everything nicely. You just want to make sure all of it is covered up. I did end up moving the butternut squash around so that it was covered up nicely, and it worked out just fine. So kind of like that. If you want to add a little bit more, you could probably also add a little, if you don't have enough, like you could probably just add in a little bit of extra water if you wanted to. If you notice that it's cooking down too fast and the butternut squash is not cooked down enough because you're going to have to kind of almost puree it after it's cooked. So, I let this sit and I just constantly kept stirring it. You're going to let it get to like a boil and then just turn it down a little bit, and you will just constantly want to keep on stirring it up so that it doesn't like get stuck or like nothing burns. So as you can see, it's now cooked down pretty well and it's boiling. So now I put in, and again, I don't measure. So I just put in a good amount of pepper. I put in a good amount of the pink Himalayan salt because that's just the salt I like. And then you're going to want to put a little bit of sage in there. It's not a ton. And then you're going to want to put in nutmeg. Now, you can use fresh nutmeg or you can just use this, like I already have it in there. I did end up putting in a little bit more than I thought was necessary, but it ended up tasting fine. So the nutmeg is like a personal preference if you like that taste, which I do. I think it adds a lot to the soup. So just so you know, but you might not want to add as much as I did. And you just kind of stir it up, let it cook up a little bit more while that was going. So this is what I used to it's a hand blender, or you can use like a puree. I'm sure you could use, is that even a word? Anyways, I'm sure you could use like the mashers that you mash like the potatoes with if you didn't have something like this. Or you could even, if you wanted to, you could probably put it in your mixer and just mix it up. But that's really up to you. I just used my hand blender. So as you can see, it's really cooked. It cooked down really well. I'm just showing you this so you know, like you want everything to kind of be cooked down. You don't want to see like full chunks of the butternut squash. So what I did was I moved it from the stove to my countertop because I don't have an outlet close enough to do it on the stove, but it might be better off taking it off the stove for safety reasons, especially for me because I'm a klutz. It was. So as you can see, I'm just kind of bringing it down with the hand blender and just blending it. You don't want to lift the blender up while it is on because it will make a mess. That is a warning. If you're going to use a hand blender, don't lift it up while you're blending. Make sure it's off and then lift it up, or you may have a mess. You may have whatever you're cooking all over the place. So I just slowly kind of went through the whole thing, and it does take a little bit of time. And this is the soup. Now, I probably could have used a little bit more vegetable broth or stock because my soup is a little bit thicker than I probably would have made it normally, but this is what I had, and let me tell you, it is so good and so yummy, and it is just something awesome for fall. And now with it, I did taste it after it was all done, and this is a time where you can add more or less of you can't add less. You can add more of whatever you want in there spice-wise, but that's just how I did, and it tasted amazing. And here it is all done in my bowl. It was so yummy. I could eat this every day. It's so good. And it's fairly healthy for you. It's really not that bad for you. You could even put crackers in it or something if you'd like to. I just prefer the taste of it without it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And please don't forget to hit that bell notification so you guys are notified anytime Lisa or I decide to post a video. Bye, guys.